Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well here on a Friday, kind of late afternoon. And yeah, I wanted to talk about some movies I've seen recently that I didn't see in the theater. Actually, a decent movie, and that is called The Luckiest Man in America. And this is one I wasn't aware of at all. I just kind of came across it on accident, kind of, and was like, "What is this movie?" Like, I never heard of this movie. But it stars, Paul Walter Hauser, who's again one of my favorite that's comedic character actors, I guess, out there. He was in Cobra Kai, Stingray, love him there. But he's been appearing in movies a lot lately, and anytime he shows up, always love his performance. He's a great comedic actor, I think. And he's getting more and more lead roles, I think. He was the lead in a Clint Eastwood movie, which I'm forgetting the name of the movie, and he was really good in it. And I heard that he's going to be Chris Farley in like a Chris Farley biopic, so that's cool. See him in a lead of one of my favorite, comedic actors. Anyway, so he stars in this movie. And it's based on a true story of this guy named Michael Larson, which I didn't know anything about this true story. What I find most interesting about this movie is a true story. It's so interesting. Like, it's more interesting than the movie. In fact, when I found out, like, oh, this really happened, and then I had to do some research and go, oh, this is kind of crazy. But it's based on this true thing, and I can't remember if it was in the 70s, maybe. I think it's probably somewhere in the 70s. But there was this game show called Press Your Luck, which I've heard of. Not that interesting of a game show. I doubt it lasts that long, but you have to answer some questions, I guess, and then you get so many rounds of this thing where there's this square board and you have this button that you push, and there's these lights that go do 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 do, and then you press a button and it stops on something, and it could be money or it could be whatever. And so it's called Press Your Luck because when you press it, you don't know if you're going to hit something good or if you hit the mascot of the game show, Whammy. And so the Whammy, and if you get a whammy, then it just zeroes you out. It's just whatever money you were making at that point, it just bankrupts you. It goes back to zero. So you want to do it a couple times. If you do it a couple times and you don't hit the whammy, then you want to pass it on to the next person, because the more times you do it, of course, the bigger chance you're going to hit that whammy and you lose everything. So it's a bit of a risk factor kind of show. Anyways, it's not that interesting of a show. I've heard of it. So this guy, Michael Larson, he goes on the show and he's just winning. And he just keeps hitting at the right time, and he keeps going. And they're like, and it kind of, you see it through the executives that are watching it, like in the building. The main one is David Strathairn is in here, and as they're watching, they're like, okay, this guy cheating because no one's ever done this well before. He just keeps hitting it just at the right spot, and he just keeps making money and money and money, and they're starting to get worried, like, how long is this guy gonna go? How much money is we're gonna lose as a company, basically, because no one ever has gotten this far before, and he ends up winning a ton of money. I forget how much money now, but it breaks like the record for most money, of course, ever made, like on a game show, and especially this game show. And he's very awkward. And the thing about Michael Larson, he's a very awkward person, and he is in real life. Like, I see some footage of him, and like I said, Paul Walter Hauser like nails the character. Very awkward kind of guy. And the whole story is that he's an ice cream truck driver from like Indiana or something like that. And so he's like this guy that's like, he's, has just a regular even an unusual job. You don't meet many ice cream truck drivers, whatever. So it's not a very big job, not a very big paying job, whatever. And so it's like, oh, this rags to riches kind of story. This guy who, doesn't have much, and he's just getting lucky anyways. But of course, the interesting part of the movie is that the question is like, is this guy lucky, or is he cheating? So that's what they're trying to figure out. And so they're trying to investigate, him and what's going on as he's playing the game show. It's kind of interesting that, and even him, you're not sure exactly what's going on with this guy. there's kind of a mysteriousness about him. And he keeps talking about he has a daughter at home and stuff like that, and a wife. And you find out that his wife actually left him, or he's divorced, and all this. And yeah, he's kind of a loser. You kind of learn he's kind of a bit of a loser. But you kind of find out that he's not cheating, but he figured out how to how do you say it, how to win, how to cheat the system in some way. He's playing by the rules, but he figured it out. He figured the game out and figured out how to press the button at the right time, which is like, how do you do that? Because it's supposed to be random, but what we find out is that the patterns, there's 3 different patterns that the lights go do 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 do. There's like 3 different patterns, and so this guy, and I looked him up, and this is just spoiling for real life, but in real life, what happened was Michael Larson studied the game show, and he watched it. Just binge watched the show. He taped it, and we rewatched it, and he figured out on his own that again, it's like he's a little smart because he figured this out. He's like the only guy who's ever figured this out, but he figured out that there's only 3 different patterns that the lights are going on, and once you figure out what the pattern is, I don't know, he figured out exactly how to hit the button at the right time to where he never hits a whammy, and he hits the top dollar every time. So pretty smart guy that figured that out. The only guy that kind of figured that out by just studying it. And so what they found out, of course, is that, we need more than 3 patterns. That was the mistake of the game show, is that they thought, no one's going to figure this out, the 3 patterns. And of course, someone's like, you idiot, you only have 3 patterns. So of course, after that happened, of course, they kind of knew that he kind of, cheated the system in a sense, but yeah, he didn't technically cheat. So they still gave him the money, though they weren't happy about it. And in real life, after that happened, they then redid everything, and they came up with 28 different patterns, so nobody else could figure out the system. So that whole stunt that Michael Larson did kind of changed everything for them. But it was interesting about Michael Larson. In this movie, there's a bit of like, the Michael Larson in this movie is a bit like, feels a little maybe guilty. Like, am I doing, the whole time he's like, am I, is it wrong? Am I doing an immoral thing here by, making money off these people? I'm cheating the system, so it's almost like, should he feel guilty, or should we feel, like he's bad for doing this, or should we be on his side? There's some interesting parts to that. In real life, though, Michael Larson was like a scumbag who, when I looked him up in real life, he was just a con man, and he just figured out all these different cons to do. And this was just one of the cons that he did, that he made a lot of money off of. And he took the money from this and just put it in another like con where he would con people out of money and stuff like that. He eventually got arrested, and he ran to Florida, and he was in hiding in Florida. He lived in Florida until he died, and he died of like heart disease or something like that, at a fairly young age, as he was in hiding from the police or something. Anyway, so it's a crazy story overall. Like I said, there's a documentary about it. Actually, you can find YouTube that's, I think, more interesting than this movie. But I don't know. There's still, I think it's an interesting enough story, though the ending is not great. Like, I feel like the ending just kind of ended, and it wasn't very climatic. Climatic. I wish there was a better ending to here, but I don't know, how do you end the story? It's kind of a weird story to tell, and the ending, I don't know how you end it, because and I wish they would have showed like real footage, or they would have had some like thing about what happened after the incident. They don't do that, and I wish they would have done something like that, shown like real footage, or said, okay, after this happened, this is what happened to the characters. That would have been a better, at least closure to the movie. But they really don't do that. It just kind of ends after he's done with this show. He finally, the show's over, and he kind of goes on, and you kind of see his wife and daughter, or his ex-wife and daughter, watching at home. And I don't know, it just kind of ends too suddenly without much closure to it. So not a great ending to it, but I'm still giving this a 3 out of 5 stars. Because I really like Paul Walter Hauser here, and it's overall a good cast. I mean, like I said, David Strathairn's great. Walter Goggins plays the host, the game show host. He's actually quite good here as well. So I do like the cast and everything. It's an interesting enough story that it kept my interest anyway. I'm not saying it's a great movie, but it's enough. I would say check it out if you ever see it on streaming. The Luckiest Man in America. All right, the last movie I'm going to talk about is actually the most popular movie on my list, and that's Sinners. Sinners that came out in theaters, and I don't know, it might still be in theaters. It seems like it was in theaters for quite a while. And this has definitely been a very popular movie, and it's done pretty well overall. And I've only heard really good reviews for this movie, so it wasn't a movie I really was expecting to watch or care about. Because again, it looked like a horror movie. Because in the trailers, there's you sense that what I sensed from the trailer was that Michael B. Jordan, is in the movie, and he plays this guy who runs a jukebox joint, whatever. And they're out, and and they're in the South, and it's all black people, and they're partying in this club, and they get attacked by vampires. That's all I knew from the trailer. I was like, so to me, I was like, oh, it's like a horror movie, but set in like the 1920s or 30s. So it's kind of interesting because it's like a period piece, but and you're dealing with overall like a black population, but then the vampires are like white vampires are infiltrating this juke joint, whatever, and killing the people, and they have to fight against it. Anyways, that's what it seemed like from the trailer. And of course, my first thought was like, oh, it's like a horror movie, vampire horror movie kind of period piece. Like that doesn't interest me at all. So I never was interested in seeing this actually, but I kept hearing good reviews, and everybody was like talking about this movie. So it made enough of a made enough, talk that I was like, okay, I probably should check this out, because it seems like it's one of the best movies so far this year. Wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not. Didn't have high expectations. But yeah, I finally watched it, and overall, I thought it was actually a pretty good movie. I actually really enjoyed it, more than I was expecting to, like I said. And it's a lot of story here that, again, it's more than just a vampire movie, which is what I thought. And I wouldn't even call it a horror movie necessarily. It's like definitely a drama with horror elements in it, because you do have killer vampires, biting people in the neck and, sucking their blood, so you do have that element in there. But it's interesting because the first hour of the movie, there's hardly really any vampire stuff. There's just, you see a little bit, but most of the first hour is just setting up the characters and setting up the whole plot of this, or I guess you can say of this, two brothers, which I didn't know. There's Michael B. Jordan's playing twin brothers. So he's playing two different characters. 'Cause, I was watching the movie, and I remember saying like, oh, there's Michael B. Jordan. And I go, wait, who's that guy? That guy looks like Michael B. Jordan too. And then I realized, oh, they're twins or whatever. They go by the nickname Smoke and Stack, which I thought that was kind of cool nicknames. Smoke, Stack, anyways. And so they're playing brothers who are moving back home, kind of where they grew up in the South, from Chicago. They were living in Chicago, and they're like gangsters. They're working for gangsters in Chicago. And so they made a bunch of money. It sounds like maybe they stole money from gangsters or something, but they are moving back. I forget where they are, but they're moving down in the deep South or whatever. And they want to build this, like I said, this kind of club. I call it, back in the day, I call it a juke joint or whatever, where you have music and, of course, drinking, music and dancing anyways. And it's pretty much all black people. Of course, it's in the South with a big black population. And so he's kind of building for those kind of people, and just have fun and play like blues music, And yeah, so that's the whole thing, is just starting a business. So the first hour is just them kind of being acquainted, I guess, with old friends and people they knew, and even like old girlfriends, maybe ex-girlfriends and so forth, and kind of establishing those relationships while also going around and getting supplies to build this place. And it's kind of just about them building it. And it's also about their cousin, who's he's, I don't know how young he is. He's fairly young, but he's kind of becoming an adult, and he's really good at playing the guitar. He's like an incredible blues guitar player, it turns out, and he can also sing. And so they hire him basically to play at this place, and they go around and hire some other people to work at the place, including like a doorman or a bouncer, and this other guy to be like doing the music, and him and his band. And so they're kind of getting everything together, and that's the whole first hour of the movie, which is decent. It's very, it's an interesting, kind of beginning to it. But we do see that there's this vampire, Remick, played by, I think, Jack O'Connell is his name. And we see that he's, he gets two other people. And the whole lore, I guess, is that, again, I don't know that much about vampires, I guess, or, but it's like when he bites another person, then they become a vampire. It's almost like zombies. I guess this reminds me of like zombie movies where when you get bit, all of a sudden you become one. But in this case, you get bit and you become a vampire who wants to kill other people. I guess you. So it's like, but you have the memories of the person that you were, but yet you're not that person. You're like a different person, but yet you have their memory. I don't know. So it's kind of weird. Not only that, but Remick has the memories of everybody he bites. It seems like so he knows like. So once he starts biting people, he kind of knows everybody's story and he knows about, their relations with other people and their friends and what's going on. So it's kind of a way for him to kind of get information too. But anyways, so they kind of come in to infiltrate and they kind of figure out, they kind of start biting people who then they don't know that are vampires and they bite more people. And pretty soon they have kind of an army of vampires. They end up getting, except there's like a few people that once they figure out, oh no, they're vampires, trying to kill us. And the whole thing, interesting part is that vampires can't come in unless you invite them in. So when they bite somebody and then they can't come in. So they have to try to figure out a way to get you to invite them in. And this is before they figure out, oh no, there's vampires that are trying to get in. And then they figure out that if you don't invite them in, they can't come in. So once they figure that out, then they're like, but then it's hard because some of these people, they're family or friends that they, like loved ones. And so they're torn between like, what to do, and to believe them or to, the other people that are like Michael B. Jordan's character and this other character who's kind of into dark magic, I guess you can say. She's the one that kind of knows about vampires, I guess. That's my big problem in the movie, though, is like, how does she know about vampires? Did I miss that? She seems like she's into voodoo kind of stuff. I don't know. And so she knows about vampires and the lore and everything, which is kind of weird. I don't quite get all that. But she's one that says, okay, they're not them anymore. They're vampires. Don't be manipulated or don't buy into what they say and don't invite them in. And so they're like, okay, we're just going to stay in this bar and while they're on the outside and we just won't let them in. Of course, eventually they do find a way. They eventually do get invited in and all hell breaks loose. All of a sudden they're being, attacked by all these vampires and they have to figure out they know how to, again, somehow they know you have to stake them in the heart. So they start building, stakes and they know about garlic. So they start wearing garlic stuff and try to defend themselves against these vampires. Anyways, yeah, that definitely is the most interesting part of the movie is when the vampires start killing people. And again, great cast though, like Haley Steinfeld is in here. She's great. Linda Delroy, like I said, is like the guy who's like part of this blues band. And then of course Michael Jordan playing two different brothers, whatever, is interesting. And I think Jack O'Connell as Remick, the main villain vampire, to me was the best character in the whole movie. He really stole the movie. It's one of those roles where he's just, he's just so evil and he's just really, again, just really, what you call scene chewed the scenery, really, every time he talked, he had this menace about him that really made his character interesting. And also a lot of music in this movie. I thought the music is done pretty well overall, even though it's bluesy style, which I'm not into blues music, but the way it's shot, the way they edited it was really good. And I like even the vampires, they do more country style music or something. And he's like an Irish vampire, so they're doing like this Irish country or something. And that's pretty good too when they're doing their music on the outside, which I'm like, why are the vampires so musical? It's funny. Like, I'm like, man, when you become a vampire, you're like all of a sudden good at playing instruments and singing. Like that's kind of cool. Vampires doesn't sound like that bad of a deal. But anyway, so I loved all the little musical stuff that happens. It's pretty cool. Overall, here we got Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler, I think, is such a good director. I mean, Black Panther was great, Creed, I'm a huge fan of Creed. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. So, yeah, I really like Coogler as a director. I think he directs this very well. I think it has overall a really good look. I love the whole period piece of like the 1920s, 30s period with all the costuming of that. I love the suits and the hats and the cigars and in the cars. I kind of love that period. Aesthetic wise, whatever, the visuals are really good. The dresses that they wore, even like when they're riding through, these fields, cotton fields like that. It's kind of a nice overall look. Acting overall was really good, I think. Like I said, yeah. So it was a really well done movie overall. I think never was too slow or boring. Kept my interest throughout. And it definitely was like, I don't know how they're getting out of this, because there's a lot of vampires that they have to fight, where it felt like there's no way they're getting out of the situation. So it is a little bit like, I still don't know how they got out of the situation. It seemed like there's too many vampires for them to fight, and Remick was such a powerful one. The way they get out of that was pretty interesting overall. And then the ending was very like, kind of, I don't know if it's a twist ending, but I wasn't expecting. I won't say too much about it, but the way it ended too, I was like, what's going on? Like, it was it was an okay ending. I wouldn't say it was like a great ending or bad ending. It was just like, okay. I just wasn't expecting it to go this way. So it did go in a strange way, I think, at the end, and the way they ended, to where like, oh, okay. So I don't want to say too much, but like, okay, what's going to happen after this? You know, it doesn't seem like the story's totally done at the end, I guess you can say. So yeah, I don't know. Interesting ending overall. Yeah, again, I'm not into like horror vampire stuff, but this was pretty interesting, I think. And the action was pretty thrilling. Like I said, compared to Corner and Clownfield, the action here was more thrilling, I think, and more, you know, on my edge of my seat kind of stuff. And yeah, anyway, so overall, a very solid movie. I'm giving this 3.5 stars. Like, I didn't love it, but I liked it. I thought it was really a solid movie that kept my interest. It's not a movie that I think I'm gonna go back and watch again. Like, I don't think, oh, that was so good, I want to watch it again kind of movie. But it was a one-time watch where I was like, yeah, that was a enjoyable movie overall. So I will give it a good review and say it's one of the better movies I've seen so far this year. So agree, disagree with me, put in the comments. I'd love to read them. Besides that, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for liking it. And thank you to all my subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate you all, and I hope you have a good day.